Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this stream coming to you on a Sunday afternoon / evening, hopefully, wherever you are. You've had a lovely weekend and are ready to cap it off with some live Wingspan gameplay. So this is coming once again from the Blue Tit Bash, and this is coming from Group F. And we have Birdwatcher and Robert French in this match. So like I said, this is the Blue Tit Bash. We've got the group stage, which is coming very close to a conclusion. And at the end of the group stage, we will have 3 players from each group going through into a knockout phase. So plenty up for grabs and plenty to play for. So we should hopefully have a good game in store for you today. So we have already done the flip, and we know Birdwatcher is going to be going first. So Birdwatcher, if you could get the invite ready and send that out, we will get stuck in right into this game. So, as always, best of luck to both players in this match. All right, and straight away, we have got a wood duck. So, probably a pretty straightforward keep if you're Birdwatcher there. So, not a huge amount to choose from in that start. So yeah, maybe you think about the woodpecker in the tray as well to add to that. Yeah, I think sometimes with the wood duck you can kind of struggle to get that second forest bird that's going to help just get that little bit of extra food or maybe some points as well. So yeah, that's probably the big decision here if you're Birdwatcher. Probably not a whole lot else in their starting hand that they'd look for, but I mean, when you get given a wood duck, if that's the only one that you keep out of the 5, I think you can be pretty happy with that. So yeah, we've got some people in the chat, which is good. So this was just me this time. So if you do want to chat with me in the comments, please do. I am always here and always reading and listening. So yeah, give me some questions, give me some comments, give me some things to think and talk about, and hopefully make this a little bit more interesting for us all. So it looks like maybe Birdwatcher's going to go for the flycatcher as well. I don't mind that too much. I think it's a little bit difficult with the food, and you only have 1 cherry, right? And there's none in the feeder, so getting both these down pretty quickly is going to be a difficult one. And I think normally when you do have the wood duck, you can have so much food anyway that you probably don't need that additional food source in the forest. But of course, with the viticulturalist, it is going to work for that as well. So maybe they have their mind on that. But here we go. We have Robert French's hand, and that is looking very full tuck friendly, if I do say so. We got the bush tit and the mute swan, and I think even there was another tucking bird in there that, yeah, we got the robin. So yeah, some interesting decisions here, I think, for Robert to make. Diet specialist and bird bander. You probably go diet specialist if you're going to keep the mute swan, at least, I think, as well. So but yeah, mother love straight away, like me. Yeah, your mind goes straight to the full tuck there, I think. The mute swan really nice, obviously, get you loads of extra tucks, and then the bush tit get you eggs as well. So kind of you just need the food source on top of that. And I think particularly if maybe they grab a hummingbird or something, that is so good against a wood duck engine as well. Particularly if they go for flycatcher and have loads of extra food. So yeah, certainly the mute swan I think is a definite keep. The kind of the thing that puts me off a bit if you do go swan and bush is that is a lot of food and not a whole lot of food generating birds in this hand. So maybe you could grab that the woodpecker again in the tray and use that just in the early game at least. Obviously the bush tit and the swan both going to need seeds. There's a couple in the bird feeder at the moment, so could help them out a little bit. But yeah, certainly it does look like a forest versus wetland, which for this first end around goal at least is not helpful for either player, but certainly will be an interesting matchup. It's always nice to see, I think, when you get two players doing two very different things in the game. And I think particularly with the expansion birds, obviously the mute swan here being the kind of prime example, you get lots of opportunity to see these kind of different strategies where you do have different engines in play. So yeah, they've gone for the swan and the robin. So I probably would have looked to see the bush tit there as well. Obviously the egg source in the wetlands is so nice. So would have helped a lot. But you know what? I think the mute swan is a good start, and certainly if you can add something to that to help you just a little bit in terms of getting some food generation and some card generation, then yeah, I think you're okay. So interesting play for birdwatchers. So they go for the seed straight up. So I can only imagine that is to get the wood duck down first. Obviously, if they were gonna get the flycatcher down first, you play that and then go for food. So again, I think that probably is the priority. You get this wood duck down first of all. So yes, you can check the groups if you're on the Discord. If you look in the updates channel, the pinned post in the update will tell you all the group standings. So I can't remember off the top of my head how this group is looking. I think it's pretty close to finishing. I think most of the games have been done. There might be maybe 2 or 3 more after this one, but yeah, I mean, every game is important, you know. I think particularly where you've got 7 players and 3 of them go through, most of these groups are not being decided really until very, very late in the group stage. So plenty to play for here. So straight up going for cards is Robert after getting the swan down, and you know, I think that bitted could have been a good play, but I think the priority, yeah, they want to get this woodpecker down. So I don't mind that. I think woodpecker and robin, you know, maybe they go for both those in the forest, and I think that could be a good option. But equally, woodpecker on its own just to get a bit of food, and then maybe you go for the robin in the grasslands, and you give yourself options in all 3 habitats. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. It's going to help for this first and second end of round goal as well. So yeah, could be a good setup here, I think, for Robert. But like I said, really, you know, this swan, its real strength is when you can add some extra birds in that wetlands to it, just to help with a bit more on the card generation. But also, obviously, you the more birds you have there, the more tucks you get. So yeah, you're going to get more points that way. Excellent point in the chat. I hadn't spotted that. Birds with no eggs as the last end of round is always a bit of a nightmare. But that said, you know, if both of these players are going for kind of the non-grasslands kind of engine that you'd normally go for, it might not be too bad. You know, I think that can work. Certainly, if you're going egg heavy, it's really, really difficult to score points for that end of round goal while maximizing from your own engine. So it's certainly a tricky one. But I think, yeah, if you're going wood duck, and if you're going wetland engine with the mute swan, then I think you can make that work. So it could be pretty competitive for that last end of round goal. But obviously we've got a lot of wingspan to get through before we get to that point. So plenty to play for. So here we go. Birdwatcher going with the stilt. Do you know what? I actually don't mind that. I think that can work. A grackle, probably something that Robert would have preferred over Birdwatcher. But yeah, I think certainly early game you can struggle with the wood duck for getting enough cards, and obviously you're going to have loads of food. So yeah, I don't mind that. Get something done in the wetlands. Obviously, you're not going to need big brown powers in the wetlands because you're probably not going to be activating that if you have the wood duck here. But yeah, just getting yourself a couple of cards. I think really they kind of need, okay, I mean, either big point birds here or kind of something to add to this wood duck. I do wonder if this flycatcher is still going to go down. I feel like if they were going to get it down, you probably try and prioritize that, just so at least you're getting the extra food, and you know, you're extending that forest out a little bit more. So we'll see how this goes. I think ideally I'd be looking for something better than that flycatcher, but it is still points. It is still good for the viticulturalist, and I think particularly as well with this expansion, there are plenty of birds that can make use of extra food with the end of round powers. So if you find one of them and you turn all these extra foods you're grabbing and turning those into tuck cards, then that's a really, really nice option to have. So if they can dig through a bit with the wood duck, they'll be able to find that, and that's exactly what they're going to be looking for. So it looks like for Robert, they're kind of getting the food set up to get both these birds down. And like I said before, really, I'm interested to see whether the robin is going to go in the forest here with the woodpecker. I think that could work, but obviously the real kind of missing piece of the puzzle here is the egg generation. I think, like Mother Love says in the chat, really the bush tit would have been such a nice option to keep, and obviously help get points and eggs in the forest, in the wetlands, I should say. So I think they'll have to do a little bit more digging to hopefully find something better. Ooh, that gull would have been nice as well for Robin. All of the good wetland tucking birds and sort of food generating birds are coming up now, but for the wrong player. So probably not going to get whole usage out of that gull. But towhee. Maybe you can make a case for playing the towhee. They've obviously already got the food. It works with a bonus card. If they are going to look to get something down in the grasslands, it's cheap. They can play it now. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. So I certainly can't see them really making use of the gull. Maybe the grackle you could play later if you do have an excess of cards. But again, with wood duck, that is a tricky one, unless you have like a mockingbird or something like that to really just rack up a huge number of cards. It's so unlikely that you're going to get left with that many left over when you are just getting that single card a turn. So probably the gull is what you get rid of here. I don't imagine, like I said, they're not going to be drawing cards. You're not going to need those brown powers in the wetlands. So pretty safe to get rid of that one. Yeah, we've got some agreement in the chat that the bush tit is kind of good. I think bush tit's probably the best. Those wetland birds that you're kind of going for, that gets the tuck and the eggs, obviously has the most egg spaces. It's going to help with the most bonus cards and end of round goals. Obviously, we do have one here, the bowl nest, which that would help for. So, I think it would have been so nice just to be able to get that down and obviously get the extra points and the eggs. But they've not got it, so we shouldn't go on too much about it because that's a decision in the past. So, maybe they get lucky, maybe they find something that they're looking for just by digging from the deck. But here we go, I called it. Towhee in the grasslands. So like I said, I don't really mind that. I think if it's going to help you for the end of round and help the bonus card, and maybe if they're going to chuck some extra food, they can get some more eggs. So I think that works. I think that works okay. So I do not mind that at all. Now, Robert going for cards. The heron is an interesting one. Certainly helps with the swan if you're just kind of extending that grasslands or that wetlands out extra spaces. You can obviously get extra tucks with the swan, which is really nice, but it's a very expensive bird to play. And talking of very expensive birds to play, we've got the oriole, but I'd probably try and look to get that down. It's 3 food, helps the bonus card, and I think, like I mentioned earlier with the birds like the hummingbird, any of these kind of birds that are kind of chucking food around and giving food to your opponent, birdwatchers can have so much food access in this game, certainly with the wood duck, and if they do look to get this flycatcher down as well, obviously the towhee and the grasslands get some food, so they're not going to be short of food. I think if you throw an extra few cherries throughout the game towards them, it's not going to have too much of an impact on them. Whereas for you, if that's your only food source, that is potentially huge. So, I think it's a tricky one. Obviously, there's only one cherry in the bird feed at the moment, so it might take a little bit of time. But I think you could take a couple of food, get that down, big points, and works well. Yeah, very swift is an interesting one, Mother Love. I think maybe now it could work, but obviously with the swan, the further in the game you go, by building up that wetlands, you're kind of tucking more, but you're still only drawing one, so they might not necessarily have a whole lot of cards generated to use for the swift. So certainly I think in terms of getting food more quickly, it would help, but they kind of have the woodpecker for that as well. So maybe you could use that as well, just as a way to get your forest started and get a little bit of extra food there. But that's kind of, I think, the key decision for them is going to be how to set up this forest, because they got some good birds. It's just about how they're going to afford to pay for them. Alright, so we've got the tree creeper, which I've still not really seen a game where the tree creeper has been used that effectively. I've seen some good Goldcrest games. I've had a good Goldcrest game myself. I've seen some posted on the Discord. Tree creeper, I don't know why, because I feel like it would be easy to use, because normally you've got loads of eggs, right? Whereas I think in most cases you don't always have those extra cards to discard with the Goldcrest. Maybe it's the extra food for the tree creeper. I don't know. Maybe again it's just if you're going heavy on the forest, you might not have a great egg source, but it feels to me like it could work pretty well. But not the right use case here. So I completely agree with Birdwatcher getting rid of it there. But they did grab the cherry, which is a disappointment if you are Robert. So probably maybe they were going to play the woodpecker anyway, but certainly you look to get that down. And I think they'll be having their eye on getting a bit of extra food here, and maybe hopefully in round 2 they can go for getting some rerolls, looking for some cherries, looking for some worms, and try and get these nice birds down. Certainly beginning with this oriole. Yeah, chaffinch. I think chaffinch is one of those where you kind of keep it just in case, because it's so unique and it is so huge point scoring potential, right? So again, I think kind of similar to when I was talking about the grackle earlier, you kind of need cards to feed that, and the chaffinch is like that but tenfold. So it is difficult. It is difficult to feed that, but maybe you run into a killdeer, or like I said, maybe you run into a mockingbird or something that lets you draw loads of extra cards. Then just having that to be able to pivot late in the game and get loads of extra points is not a bad option. But there we go. First round is done, and I think Birdwatcher took that uncontested, because we do indeed have Robert playing the Robin in the forest, and like I said, I don't mind that. I think that could work. You get a couple of food, a couple of points potentially. I think that's good. I think certainly food at the moment is a bit of a problem. They kind of need to get some food and then get some more grassland or more wetland birds down, I should say. But really as well, they do need something in the grasslands, because obviously this filled columns end of round is so important to qualify for. Ooh, and they just missed out on the Ordwin's goal by 1 card. Now, is Birdwatcher going to deny that? I think you have to, right? I mean, they're going to pick up this nutcracker in the tray. I would imagine that is a really good one to get down. 5 points for the seed. They've already got the seed. I think you prioritise that. You get that down. Helps get some extra food, and then maybe you do have some extra seeds, whether it's just from gaining food, or if you've been laying eggs with this towhee, then you can obviously cash those to get points. So pretty good bird, I think, the nutcracker. Maybe you're not going to use it every turn. Maybe you might only end up with a few cash food from it, but I think it's still worthwhile. So I would probably be looking to grab that. But the question, as I say, is going to be, do you spend a card to pick up that gull and then just get rid of it? I think you probably do, because that's a dream card here for Robert, because it gets you the extra card to tuck behind the mute swan and the gull, but then obviously it can tuck itself as well. So they do deny it, which I think is sensible, but they have left the nutcracker, so clearly they're not so keen on that. I think maybe they are still looking at go for this flycatcher play, which obviously they could force it down on this next turn. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're gonna have so much food in this game that maybe Nutcracker and Flycatcher could have worked together in a sense. You're getting so much food, you can cache some of the extra seeds, but yeah, not a whole lot in the tray probably here. If you're Robert, they certainly, I think, we're looking for some more worms. I think they want to try and do this double play with the heron. Well, both herons, which I don't mind. You get extra cards. Obviously, you can use the swan to do some tucking. So maybe they'll get lucky in a reroll. I think that's probably what you try and do. But obviously, the bird feeder's not exactly set up in a great way at the moment to be getting a reroll here. So yeah, I don't know how you confuse the two Oki. I guess they are quite similar, right? You're tucking a bunch of cards or you're caching a bunch of food. I don't know. Yeah, the cuckoo is in the tray. I really like it. I know you really like it. I'm not sure how it works for either player here. I don't know. I mean, obviously in both setups, it's good normally because, they're both focusing very heavily on habitats that are not the grasslands. So they're not going to be getting a lot of eggs naturally. And so obviously if you can get some through these pink powers, both players have got plenty of egg spaces that fit the cuckoo. So the cuckoo can use either bowl nests or ground nests, which is such a huge strength. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you'd expect to get that many eggs from that if your opponent isn't laying eggs too many times. Although that said, if birdwatcher is getting this grackle down to maybe go for some extra eggs here, maybe you could get a few every so often. But yeah, I mean, both of them are going to have to take eggs, right? Both of them have birds they want to play and don't have that many eggs. I think probably now if that grackle goes down, I think it works less well for Robert because beforehand you lay eggs, birdwatch, you get 2, whereas now you lay eggs, you get 4. So you're automatically having to lay eggs half as often just to play birds. So you're going to get half as many activations off this cuckoo. I don't know. I don't think it works too well for either player. So I'm less surprised that has stayed there compared to something like the Nutcracker. So yeah, more bad luck on the bird feeders for Robert, I think there. So they've still not got the worms, but I think they'll probably still try and force these 2 birds down and just try and get some extra cards. I think this heron in particular works well with the swan, so it obviously lets you pick up. I think it's a grassland bird. I don't know, there's one for the grasslands, one for the wetlands. And a lot of the times that's not necessarily a bird you want. But if you're going for the swan, any card is good because you can just tuck it straight away and pick something else up. So I think that's a pretty good option. But yeah, I'm a little bit confused about why it has taken birdwatcher so long to try and get the second forest bird down. Now I imagine it's going to be this next turn because they do have the food now finally to play this flycatcher. So they certainly had a lot of options and a lot of chances to get something down. But I think did they just draw the red star as well, which is the same food as the flycatcher but a much better power and obviously works the next end of round. So I think I'm seeing that right, and that's a pretty good play I think for them. So you kind of switch up there what you were going for, but they did grab the cuckoo as well. Maybe partly as a denial, or maybe partly as a I know my opponent's going to have to lay eggs a lot because they're only getting 2, and obviously a few extra free ones is very welcome. So yeah, I think it could work. I think even if you only get maybe a few eggs, or maybe you're kind of ensuring yourself against that late pivot into the grasslands, then it works. Yeah, I think the Tauhi, like I say, I don't mind the Tauhi play when it went down. I think they played it for that first end of round to qualify for that. I don't think they could quite have afforded the Woodcock at that point. Obviously, it helps the bonus card as well. Yeah, I think that was mainly for the end around. Throwing the woodcock is definitely controversial. And keeping something like the condor, because the condor's one of those birds where you play that if you don't have a lot of food, but you have a lot of cards. And I think at the moment, birdwatcher's just going to have so much food, they're not going to know what to do with it. And so the woodcock, obviously 9 points. You know, are you really going to draw an 8-point bonus card from this condor to make it worth playing instead? I highly doubt it. So I certainly would have preferred the keep with the woodcock. Certainly more points is always good, and certainly, yeah, when you've got this kind of access to food, you know, with this red slot down 3 food a turn, and obviously the cards through the wood duck, that's just so nice. And you know, you automatically want to default to playing the big point birds. Yeah, maybe the condors for Tay, but I'm not sure Tay's watching, so I don't quite think that's necessary. But yeah, I think the Nutcracker, I would still look to pick it up. I think it works well with the red start because you get so many extra seeds potentially through this power. So turning some of those into points, pretty nice. And do you know what? I quite like what Robert's just done there. So I think they were going to originally go for this this heron plus heron and get the extra cards, but they saw the falcon and thought, right, this might help get me some extra eggs in the wetlands, and obviously they could grab that through the tuck and the robin, get a bit of extra food. So yeah, I don't mind that. I think this works. You get those 2 down. Again, they are going to miss out on this end of round, which is a shame. I think they had a few potential grass and birds they could have looked to keep or pick up earlier and get those down. That would have been really good, but unfortunately, probably not going to work out this round. But yeah, we do have Sace Phoebe in the tray. I think you probably grab that, right? Certainly if you're birdwatcher, again, you get so much food. They've already got 2 of the bowl nests down. It works well for this next end of round goal without having to lay eggs. If you do play the chaffinch as well, that's another bowl nest. So I would probably be looking to grab that now if I'm birdwatcher. But yeah, this Nutcracker, I think this Nutcracker's not going to get picked up. Maybe it's just a case of it's a new bird. You know, the players are not super familiar with it. Oh, here we go. I should have kept my mouth shut. But there we go. It does get picked up, which is nice to see. For all the reasons that we've been talking about for the last 5-10 minutes, that will be a good play. But yeah, not the Sace Phoebe. I don't know. I would have liked to see the Sace Phoebe picked up there. Ooh, and a red start as well. Lots of good options. Lots of good options coming up. That red start is going to be so good for either player here, really. I just don't think. Can Robert get it down? Is that worth it? I think you might be able to afford it, you know. It's a tricky one. I think that's what they're thinking about, because that's going to be so good. It helps them for this end of round. It works for the diet specialist. Maybe that's kind of what they're checking here. You know, if that ties you the end of round, obviously you get some eggs as well throughout the rest of the game. Ooh, I would not want to be making this decision here, whether you go with the red start or not, because oh man, I think that's a tricky one. I think that's what they're thinking about here, because I think they kind of line this up for the heron and the falcon. I think that's a really good double play. I like to see that. Just get that extra card draw, and you give yourself a chance at some eggs as well through that falcon power. So really, really nice. And obviously, goes without saying, all those extra tucks through the mutes one are going to be so valuable. But yeah, I think obviously they can take it and play it. I think they do still have enough food. They might have to overpay a bit, but to obviously do that double play in the start of the next round, you know, it'd be nicer to get that wetland set up straight away this round so that you can use it next round. But ooh, yeah, I think it has potential to be big points. Like you say, Mother Love, you know, you get extra eggs every round. Helps with this end of round goal, helps with the bonus cards. Yeah, I probably would have picked it up, but we do see Robert going with the double play. And you know, sometimes in Wingspan, I think if you have a plan, and you want to stick with it, I don't mind that. I think certainly they had the plan in place was to do this double play. I think, sometimes you need to think on your feet, right? Sometimes a bird comes up and you need to change your mind, or you need to change your strategy, or you need to deviate from plan a little bit. But equally, I do see sometimes players, they'll kind of go rabbits in their headlights. So a certain bird will come up and they just panic, or everything gets dropped and they forget what they were going to do just to go for this one bird in the tray, when actually if they thought it through and planned and thought, right, what are my priorities here, they could have stuck with the original plan that they thought about and worked towards achieving, and still obviously scored points and put themselves in a strong position. So like I said, I don't mind that. I think they might even still be able to grab it, this next turn when they do go for cards, which I'm assuming is what they're going to try and do here, because you've got that nice wetland setup. You can draw cards, you can potentially get some eggs, obviously lots of tucks as well. So they could still look to pick it up through the moot swan at the end when they do the tucks. And again, they've got the food, so you do miss out on that one round end activation. You miss out on this end of round goal, which is 5 points. So it's a difficult one. Like I say, I wouldn't want to be the one making that decision. So, for birdwatcher, I think Robert does. I think Robert does have the food generation for red start. He's already got potentially 3 food if that woodpecker. I think it could work really well for Robert. And he's not going to be laying eggs a lot, right? Whereas at the moment, you kind of look at birdwatcher, they've got quite nice grasslands where they're already going to want to be laying eggs, and trying to get points that way. So I don't know. I'll be honest, I think it works better for Robert here than birdwatcher. I think just in terms of the egg access is so much easier if you're birdwatcher. They get 4 return plus the tuck for an extra point. So that's really nice. Whereas if you're Robert, you only get 2 when you lay eggs, right? So every free egg that you get is more valuable to you than it would be to your opponent in that case. But both players obviously had the chance to grab it and have declined to do so. I think birdwatcher's going to focus on trying to get some of these forest birds down. Maybe they might go nutcracker and flycatcher and just kind of go all in, loads and loads of food, get some caches, and try and get some points through the nutcracker that way. Because obviously the wood duck, really strong engine, but when you're not scoring points, it can be a bit weak. And at the moment, that is not scoring them any points. So kind of all of their points are coming through the birds they play or the eggs they're laying. So they will have to think carefully about where the points are coming from. But yes, here we go. Robert is contemplating going for this red start. So I noticed they could have done a double tuck. They could have tucked the chipping sparrow as well, but they've kept that. I can only assume they're going to try and play that in the forest. Just try and help out a little bit again with the food generation, but also the points, and maybe get a few eggs as well. So it might be a little bit late if you're kind of going for that route. It can still work, but again, these pink powers keep coming up. I don't necessarily know that flycatcher's bad with nutcracker. Obviously, it's not amazing, right? But I think any food is good. So I think if maybe you need a worm, and so instead of gaining a worm through the gained food, if you gained a seed and then cached that with the nutcracker and then gained the worm anyway through the flycatcher, that's a point that you've just got. I would probably play the flycatcher over the chaffinch here. I mean, you say it's better as filler. I don't know. It's not doing anything for you because you're not going to have extra cards to tuck through the chaffinch, because either you're going to be playing the birds you draw or you're going to be tucking them behind the grackle. I don't think you have anything extra to be tucking with that chaffinch. Whereas at least if you do play the flycatcher, that completes your viticulturist bonus card, 7 points in the bag, gets you a bit of extra food. You can afford to do a few more tucks using the nutcracker. That is probably what I would be looking to do. So obviously they've got the eggs as well, so I think you probably look to get both those birds down. You got the food for them. No time to waste. They probably spent a little bit too long waiting to get the second forest bird down. I think this is really where you just need to accelerate. get these extra forest birds down, and just start digging again. You know, just try and pick up some birds again. If that stays Phoebe that's still there, I'd probably still look to pick that up if I could. Obviously, this turn they can go for the food and grab that through the wood duck. I just think that's going to be so nice with all those bowl nest birds they're looking to play. So many free eggs, and yeah, food isn't going to be a problem for that. So, but it does seem like they're kind of contemplating and thinking, you know, what's the priority? Which of these birds do I want to get down? They still keep looking at this condor. I really hope they don't play that. I just don't think that is the kind of thing that you look to play with this kind of wood duck setup. So maybe they wanted to keep it just in case they ended around, but they won that anyway, so you don't need it. But here we go. Flycatch goes down. Like I say, I quite like that. So I can't complain at that too much. And now, is that a California quail? That is a California quail. So, ooh, I think you probably can still make that work. Again, they're kind of like the chipping sparrow that Robert picked up. It is a little bit late for the quail. But if that maybe just saves you a bit of tempo in terms of not having to lay eggs. Obviously, they do get quite a lot of eggs when they do go for that action. And the seed as well from the Towie. So, yeah, maybe it is too late, but maybe they're going to pick it up. Because otherwise, I think they would have played the Nutcracker as discussed. So, we shall see. But, yeah, not the greatest reroll on the bird feeder there. Already this flycatch is not going to be able to get used, which is a shame. But they will still be able to use the red star, so... ooh, this is bold. Okay, good. I don't think you should be discarding cards. I don't think you've really got enough card draw to justify that. You know, you're basically trading a card for 2 food. I think cards are more valuable than food here. You only get 1 card a turn, whereas you're getting 4 food. Like, that's a big difference. So I certainly wouldn't be doing that trade. But yeah, I don't know. They're still looking at this Nutcracker. You could obviously play the Nutcracker and the quail. Again, a little bit slow. You kind of want to have everything set up at the start, or certainly within a couple of turns of this third round. So, you know, if they're going to pick up the quail here and then play that and the Nutcracker, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. But in the end, they don't discard, which I am happy about. And ooh, moorhen. Now that's an interesting bird. Obviously, they are going to have lots of extra food. So maybe if you discard some food to get some extra birds played. I mean, that works so well if you have some big point wetland birds, right? You're looking for a puffin, you're looking for a spoonbill. You're not looking for a green heron. So it's probably a bit late for the moorhen. It would be nice. I haven't really seen the moorhen again. Kind of like the tree creeper that came up earlier. Still not really seen it used fully to the kind of potential I think it has. It did come up in one of the streams where a player had a raven and a catbird, and so they had so much food and actually lots and lots of space in the wetlands to fill up that they could have, you know, really maximised on it. But I think it just didn't work out for one reason or another. So yeah, Maltoni's Warbler. I don't know if it's really good. I think it's okay. But you know, 2 rounds left, and you have to draw cards, and you get absolutely nothing drawing cards. So I probably wouldn't look to go Maltoni here. It's a bit late. Moorhen is expensive to run. I agree. I don't think it works. I don't think it works in this scenario. I think certainly if they play Nutcracker, they're not going to have enough food. But, you know, they do have 4 food a turn. I think that's enough, right? You get 4 food, you discard one of them and use the other 3 to play a bird. I think that can work. I wouldn't play it in this scenario, though. I think it's too late. I think it's only 3 points in its own right to play, which is not a great return. So I think really you just kind of gamble and look for other ones. So, yeah. So Robert's gone for the Maltoni's Warbler. That might work. That might work. They need food, right, to feed that kind of Maltoni's Warbler power. They're going to want to be laying eggs at some point. obviously this end of round goal, it helps with that as well. That could work. That could work. I didn't really think about it for Robert, but that could work. Just get some extra birds down. So, but yeah, for birdwatcher, we do indeed have the nutcracker go down. So, I think this is good. I think this is good. I think you want to just basically spam this this forest, right? Because at the moment, if you're birdwatcher, you don't really have cards that you want to play. So you want to spam this forest and try and get some cards that you do want to play. And if you did that ordinarily, you're just going to end up with so much food left over. So I think at least, you know, if you could sort of strategically grab some seeds from the bird feeder when they are there. Obviously the towhee gets you a seed as well when you do lay eggs for this end of round. So I quite like that. I think being able to get a few extra points, it's going to be nice. But yeah, I think it has been a bit of a struggle for Robert. Just kind of some of that early game tempo was really kind of slowing him down. I think just struggling a bit with the card draw, struggling to get the right food to get some of these forest birds down. You know, I think what they've got set up now is actually quite nice. And certainly if they can add this Maltese warbler down as well, that's going to be a really good option. But again, it's one of those things where, you know, we see it time and time again in these kind of streams. Sometimes that everything comes together, but it's just maybe 4 turns too late. And 4 turns in Wingspan is an absolute eternity. You know, that's almost the entire final round. So if you're getting things set up that late and you're kind of missing out on the activations there, it is such a shame. So yeah, I think it's one of those where just kind of a couple of birds maybe went the other way. Again, we saw that Aldwin's Gull that came up. That would have been absolutely perfect for Robert. I think if they picked that up instead of it going into the tray, and they could just hammer that wetlands, get loads of points, and obviously get the right birds they're looking to play, that would have been so good. But yeah, it has just been a bit of a struggle. And I think eggs as well. You know, they do have this chipping sparrow down now. Again, like I said, when it came up, maybe round 3, kind of mid round 3 is a little bit late for that. But you know, it's something that gets some eggs, and they are so desperate for eggs right now. So I think you can certainly still make a case for it. But yeah, on that turn for the birdwatcher, really kind of saw that nutcracker coming into play. So getting a couple of seeds, you already had 1. You get those 3 caches and a bunch of other food already through the flycatcher and the red star as well. So yeah, that's going to be so solid. And again, you just need to keep digging, and you're looking for those big point birds. You have plenty of those options in the wetlands that get you a bonus card. Plenty of options in the grasslands as well for bonus cards or mass egg laying. Lots of good options to go for. So yeah, just on this end of round, how are we looking? Got Robert on 2, birdwatcher's on 3. I imagine Robert's going to play this Maltese warbler, but then do you lay eggs again? Can they afford? I think they can still afford to play this Oriole, and that's going to be key, right? If you get that down, that's at least the first threshold on the bonus cards. There's a few extra points, and it does give you the option of getting some extra food. Obviously, that you guarantee get the cherry, but you can discard some cards as well. And I think this is something I was talking to Motherlove about, where having that odd number in the forest is so nice, because if you are running Maltese warbler, you do need to be taking every action. So if you're drawing cards, you might have some left over. If you can turn those into food when you do go for food, and it just helps you play those extra birds, that's yeah, always a good option to have. So probably what Robert is going to look to do is yeah, play this Maltese warbler, lay eggs. You know, maybe you got a spare turn to go for food or go for some extra cards. I think that's probably the 2 options they have. But yeah, I'm going to say it again. I don't really like this Condor. I'm going to say it before the bonus card comes up. And even with the bonus card coming up, that is not a good draw. I just don't think you need that, right? You want the big point birds that are actually going to use the food. You know, I probably would have played that wetland bird instead of the Condor here. And as it turns out, they're probably going to score the same number of points. I can't see them getting more than 4 for Wildlife Gardener. So yeah, I don't really see why you go Condor. It's such a gamble on bonus cards, and you've got loads of food. You probably look to play big point birds or big food cost birds that can make use of that food. But interesting going for the nest box when you're one behind. Now, are they going to play both of those nest box birds they've got? I think they've got that wetland birds. Can't see which one it is, and obviously that nuthatch as well. They're both going to meet that. But they must not be planning on playing this chaffinch then, because if you play the chaffinch, you automatically meet that bowl nest one. So that is an interesting keep on the bonus cards. And yeah, like I said, even if they hit that lower threshold, it's only 4 points. And so that condor, at the moment, it's 0 because it gets you 1 and you have to pay an egg to play it. But yeah, 4 points from a condor. I think you'd hope for better than that. So it is a bit of a shame. Obviously, they can discard food here and get some extra eggs. That gives you a little bit of value, but not a whole lot for me. So yeah, obviously they can still lay eggs here, get some big points. So they get 4 eggs plus a tuck and an egg on the grackle, 6 points, and a seed, which is basically a point as well because you're going to cash that with a nutcracker. So yeah, you look at 6 or 7 points on that grasslands. That's very, very nice. So yeah, this kind of feels like a very nice 2 habitat pivot. I think for birdwatcher, you go for eggs, you get the seed, then you go for food, you get more seeds, you cash them with the nutcracker, you draw some cards with the wood duck. If you draw good cards, you play them. If you draw bad cards, you just lay eggs again and you tuck them with the grackle, and you get even more eggs and even more seeds to cash with the nutcracker. So yeah, I like that. I like that kind of pivot between the two, switch back and forth depending on what you draw or whether you need eggs or what you're looking to do for the end of round. I think that's a good setup to have. So it is, as always, just going to come down to the card draw. And I think this is particularly the case with a wood duck setup where you're only looking at 2 cards a turn. It can take a long time to find those birds you're looking for. Certainly something like that yellow rumped warbler, if they could have got their hands on it earlier, would have been a nice option just to help dig through that deck a little bit more. But yeah, not great cards, I think, there. But good reroll on the falcon, so you get your free egg, which is very, very tasty. And yeah, I'm probably tucking both of those cards. Use the swan, you get a couple of points, and obviously are able to then draw another card. So yeah, I think they're keeping the warbler. They're keeping the warbler. I guess actually, you know what? They're going to go for They're going to go for food next, right? You go for food. You need something to tuck. Maybe they're going for this quail. Could work if they're going to go for that in the grasslands, right? And just hammer some eggs. I'm not sure it's going to work in the forest if they're not going to take that much food. But yeah, goldfinch is an interesting one. I didn't really think about that when it came up, but you make quite a good point, Michael. You know, basically it's extra seeds. I mean, you could probably like force it, like you say. You know, you have a bunch of random food that you're never going to use. You've got a load of worms from this flycatcher that you're not really picking up birds to play with. You pay 4 random food. You get 3 points and 3 seeds, which is another 3 points. It's a bowl nest, which would have helped if they'd kept the bowl nest bonus card. Obviously, it's good for this end of round, so if they got it down early enough, you could have laid eggs on that and won the end of round. So yeah, I think Mother Love has already done the maths. Certainly feels like it would be a 9-point play, taking all things into account. So probably on the late side now, but yeah, you know, they haven't gone for it, so I can't see Robert picking it up. But they do indeed go for food. What are they looking for? Well, they're looking for worms, so you grab the worms, right? You take the 2 worms, you do the tuck, and take the seed with the woodpecker. So yeah, all in all, a good turn there. Get rid of this warbler. You're never going to use that. And go from the deck probably. What can you get? No, that's okay. That's what you're looking for, I think. That's what you look to play with birds like the Maltese warbler. So probably go for the oriole first, so that you get most usage out of it. Because I'm assuming they're going to look to use this Maltese Warble again next round. So obviously you want to be gaining some food to make sure you qualify. And very, very smart. I like to see Robert paying attention. Use the egg off the falcon so that when you do go for cards, maybe a couple of times, if you get a couple of eggs, you're not going to run out of space there. But yeah, here we go into the final round. And is it a bit early to be calling who's going to win? I think round 4 is kind of, that's par for the course. I think if you start calling the game earlier than round 4, that's certainly too early. But like I said, I really like what Birdwatcher's got set up. I think for both players, it's just taken that a little bit too long to get things set up to where they are. But I just think this kind of 2 habitat pivot is so good. Like I say, you go for food, you get all the seeds, you get all the caches. Then you go for eggs, you get tucks and eggs and loads of points, even more seeds. So pretty straightforward to kind of flip-flop between the 2. But you know, I think Robert has potential to have a really big final round here. So obviously they got the Oriole down previously. They get some points here when they're drawing cards. They get points when they're going for food. And this is a point I've made time and time again. It's so important when you are running Maltese Warbler is that you are able to actually get points, whatever you're doing. So, you know, obviously they get cards here, but they get points. And they go lay eggs and they get points. And then they get food and they get points. So, you know, you're not feeling like you're doing an action just for the sake of qualifying for that end of round power. You know, you're actually doing something worthwhile and effective to score you points and get you resources. So, yeah, all in all, a good turn there. Yeah, maybe not amazing birds, but you probably could still play this black chin tumming birds. It's a few points. Maybe it helps the end of round with just an extra bird that's going to help you there. So, yeah, I think there's enough here. There's enough here for Robert to work with. You know, you probably go for food, you get something down. Maybe you could go for the owl as well, and then lay eggs a couple of times, and then use the Maltese Warbler power to probably look at getting that Cassin's Finch down. That's probably what the plan is here. But equally, you know, again, they can go for cards again because they get points doing that. And if you are able to get points while doing that and just having that little bit of time digging through the deck to hopefully find something more to your liking, then you know, you're not wasting time. So I think that could work, but we shall see. Yeah, I think Dominic, that's what I'm wondering as well. I think the bowl nests would have been better. Clearly they kind of have in their minds that they're going to go for this Nutcatcher and Merganser to meet that. I probably would have kept the bowl nest. You know, you could easily find something else that's going to work for that, and you just needed that one extra one. Even the Chaffinch they had as just a cheap filler at the end could have made that work, but you know, they've gone with this, so they're kind of committed to playing this Nuthatch at least, and if it gives them a bonus card, maybe it's a nice one. That's probably what they're hoping for. So yeah, we do see, unsurprisingly, Birdwatcher is going for some food here. They have a couple of seeds, which I think you probably do cache, as they have done. And yeah, again, kind of like what we talked about with the Goldfinch before, I think you probably just overpay massively on this Nuthatch. You know, you don't want to waste any seeds. They're going to be worth points. Just chuck a bunch of other random food that you don't need. And yeah, I mean, every turn they're drawing cards. Again, like I said, if they're good cards, you play them. If they're bad cards, you just tuck them on that Grackle and get points anyway. So I don't think really you care too much what you find. It's going to work either way. But yeah, the quail. Oh, can you make the quail work? I think you probably can. I think you probably can. If you're gonna go for food, you're getting potentially five foods. Yeah, you're getting 5 food, right? And you only need 2 to play this Cassin's Finch. So if you can get an extra egg on the quail and an extra egg from discarding, that's basically 2 points a turn for those 2 turns you're laying eggs, which I think is probably the best course of action at the moment for Robert. So yeah, I think it works. I think both, again, you know, I don't want to keep going on about it, but you know, both the Sparrow and the Quail, if you got those down maybe 4 or 5 turns earlier, they would look like much better plays. It's certainly kind of on gut reaction, it feels late, but I think it's probably the best play. I I think it is the best bird that they have in their hand to score the most points, because they know they're going to be laying eggs, so it's guaranteed an extra egg, which I think you take. So yeah, I think they just need to make sure they go for food, get the right food for this Cassis finch. I was surprised they didn't go for food first. I think they probably will have some left over to discard when going for eggs. So yeah, that might just cost a point. But again, another thing that comes up time and time again on these streams is how important 1 point is at the end of the game. We've had so many games recently that have been tied on food, or tied, completely, and it's been a draw. So, one food can make all the difference. So, not a terrible bonus card there for Birdwatcher. So, Breeding Manager, people are going to look at that and think, oh, it's awful. I think they can still make it work, right? You already get 1 point from it. Then you get a second point and maybe a third point, depending on how many times you're going to lay eggs. Yeah, you hope for better. That nuthatch doesn't look like a great play because it only drew the Breeding Manager. I think if you draw on, I don't know, Ecologist or something for 4 points, or like something big points, right? Omnivore for 4, you could have got some better options there. But yeah, not a terrible pickup on the bonus cards. Yeah, Vireo, I quite like that, Motherlove. I like that shout. You can have the food for it, right? And it's net points. It's 3 points and it costs you 2 eggs, so could potentially help with the end of round, and obviously any bonus card you pick up with the Finch as well, that Starness might come into play. So yep, I like that heads up play. Get those 2 birds down with the free action from this Maltese Warbler, which is very, very nice. So yeah, I think they could go eggs twice. The issue with going eggs twice is they don't have any cards right now. But the issue with going for food right now is that they don't have any seeds, so they have kind of fallen into this problem area of not having what they need to do each of the actions. So, you go for food, you're going to end up with so much extra food, and not really a whole lot to do with it, which is a shame. Now, I think Robert's looking at that white stalk and thinking, can I potentially play that as the extra bird this round? Obviously, it's 8 points on its own. It helps bump up the Diet Specialist another band, so it's another 4 points, I think, or is it only 3? It might be only 3. So you're looking at another 9-10 points on that white stalk. But obviously, to do that, you have to gain food and get maybe 1 or 2 points, versus if you laid eggs and you got 5 points, and then you do the double play. This is where doing a bit of maths comes into play, and just working out, which is the better route, and trying to take into account what kind of bonus card you expect to get as well. So, this is not. I don't think you want to draw cards because you're not going to have the food to play the white stalk. I don't think going for cards is better than laying eggs. Again, I've not counted. How many do they get? I mean, they got lucky on the Falcon, so they get a point for that, and then 3 tucks. But you lay eggs, you get 5, unless they're really, really worried about this end of round, which maybe they have a reason to be, because Birdwatcher is kind of very consolidating their eggs on a very few birds, so that might be a factor. But they have picked up this white stalk, but like I said, they can't afford to play it, so. Whether it's just a straight up denial, but your opponent doesn't have the time to pick it up and play it, so yeah, that's a slightly odd one. Whether that was just I'm going to do that for points anyway, and get this double play down as planned. I hope for their sake they aren't planning on playing this white stalk, because it's not going to work, like I said. But yeah, here we go. Last action. This Warbler, do this double play and just pray for a nice bonus card. Like, what are you looking for here? I mean, they're probably looking for bonus cards that we've already seen go, like Viticulturalist and the Bolt Nest. So, yeah, a bit of a shame that neither of those are going to come up. But let's have a look at what it's going to be. Ooh, okay. Yeah, 2 points for Ontologist. You take it. It's not great, but you take it. So, there we go. It is an end of round that Robert finally manages to grab one, which is nice. And we go into the scores. And I forgot to warn the players not to skip. So that's my bad. But there we go. We have the final result, which is 91 points for Birdwatcher and 71 for Robert. So I think all in all, a good performance from Birdwatcher. Like I said, the kind of the 2 habitat pivot was nice. Kind of fell apart a little bit at the end by not having the seeds or the food, but you know, 91 is always a strong score, and I think they managed that wood duck well. So very well played to them. And yeah, just a bit of a shame for Robert, I think. Again, just some of the plays took a little bit long. I think the food generation was a bit slow in the early game. And the what if they kept that bush tip and managed to get some eggs in the wetlands as well. Certainly a tough one. I think I agree with the chat, but you know, this is a learning experience. Hopefully the players can watch this back, and these are where, like I said, these kind of what if questions will come in, and you can think about it and review and hopefully improve that way. So yeah, that about does it for that game. Hopefully you enjoyed watching and listening to me monologue for an hour. Sure, that's exactly what you had planned for your Sunday evenings, but nevertheless, thank you very much for joining me this game. And yeah, we do have a few more games to be streamed in this tournament. I believe we have one scheduled for tomorrow at some point, and then I think there are maybe 2 more that need to be scheduled in. So yeah, keep an eye out on the Discord server, check the events posts, and obviously I will share the details as well when we know more. But that does it for today. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.